I have investigated the character of too many of the pious Negroes to feel any respect either for their religion or their teachers. Church membership does not prevent fornication, bigamy, adultery, lying, theft, or hypocrisy. It is a cloak. In 9 cases out of 10, which the slaves find convenient to wear, and in these exceptional cases, it is a union of meaningless cant and wildest fanaticism. A single spark of true Christianity among the slave population would set the plantations in a blaze. Christianity and slavery cannot live together, but churchianity and slavery are twins. In the age of the internet, and through word of mouth, a divisive myth has taken hold within the Hoodoo community. This misconception insists that Hoodoo requires the use of the Bible, suggesting that without it, Hoodoo loses its authenticity or becomes inherently tied to Christianity. These claims are unfounded and perpetuated by the systematic oppression of Christianity, deeply entangled with white supremacy. They have taken root in the minds of those who lack knowledge on the subject. However, to unravel this myth and provide a comprehensive understanding, we must embark on a journey through history, tracing the origins and evolution of Hoodoo. This tradition has deep roots in African heritage and has evolved significantly in the unique context of the American South. Let's start by exploring the historical influence of Christianity in both Africa and the American South, as it is essential to contextualize Hoodoo's relationship with the Bible and Christianity. The spread of Christianity in Africa has a long and complex history. It first set foot on African soil around 50 AD, when it found its initial home in Egypt. Over the centuries, the Christian faith gradually spread throughout the continent. By the end of the 2nd century, it had reached the lands near Carthage. One significant moment in the African Christian narrative occurred in the 4th century, when the Ascomite Empire, located in what is now known as Ethiopia and Eritrea, officially embraced Christianity. This marked one of the earliest instances of a nation adopting Christianity as its guiding light. In subsequent centuries, Nubian kingdoms like Nubia, Mercuria, and Alodia followed suit, further solidifying Christianity's presence in Africa. This transformation was a gradual but steady process, with faith serving as the driving force. By the late 5th and early 6th centuries, Christian Berber kingdoms in North Africa had emerged, leaving a mark on the continent's history. In total, Africans had been exposed to Christianity for 15 centuries before the transatlantic slave trade. However, it's crucial to note that during this period, Christianity was often viewed as a religion of the poor, frequently associated with enslaved populations akin to the plight of the Jews. It was not until the era of the transatlantic slave trade that Christianity began to shift from a religion of the enslaved to one embraced by royal officials as a means of distinguishing themselves and protecting against enslavement. Turning our attention to the American South, we find a different but equally complex relationship between Christianity and Hoodoo. Initially, slave owners did not prohibit their slaves from practicing their traditional religions. In some cases, they even encouraged these practices as a means of justifying the enslavement of African indigenous people, claiming that these individuals were not Christians and therefore could be held in bondage. Moreover, allowing enslaved individuals to engage in religious practices was also a means of appeasing them and reducing the likelihood of revolt. However, as the 1700s dawned, this leniency began to wane. The century witnessed numerous documented slave revolts across the Caribbean islands, South America, and notably in the American South, including regions like Virginia, South Carolina, Florida, and Louisiana. In response, laws were enacted to ban the practice of any religion outside of Christianity and religious gatherings in general. The turning point came with the Haitian Revolution of 1791, where blacks band together under traditional African religions to successfully revolt. The impact of this revolution sent shockwaves throughout the Americas, striking fear into plantations and slaveholders. In its wake, there was a heavy-handed crackdown on all slave religions across the region. In 1807, the select parts of the Holy Bible for the use of Negro slaves, commonly referred to as the Slave Bible, was introduced. This modified version of the Bible excluded references to freedom and escape from slavery, while emphasizing passages promoting obedience and submission. It was a deliberate attempt to reinforce control over enslaved individuals through religion. Despite the strict enforcement of Christianity and the suppression of traditional African religions, it's vital to acknowledge that many black individuals never fully submitted to the oppression or indoctrination of Christianity. They maintained their beliefs and practices, adapting them to the circumstances they faced. Moving into the 1800s, we witnessed the emergence of what we now call the Black church culture, especially after the Civil War and into the early 1900s. During this period, many black preachers were themselves root doctors or descendants of conjure practitioners from the era of slavery. One notable example is Bishop Charles Harris Mason Sr., the founder of the Church of God in Christ, who was also known as a conjure doctor. Contrary to the notion of synchronization, Christianity for African slaves was not about blending worship with the white man's God. Instead, it became a means of concealing the purest forms of the Hoodoo tradition. The power of Protestant Christianity lay in its ambiguity, simplicity, and elusiveness, which made it an effective cover for Hoodoo practices. Examples of this concealment include using biblical references for hoodoo recipes and incantations, employing baptism as a cover for initiation, utilizing the church as a meeting place for hoodoo practitioners, invoking the name of God or Jesus to conceal veneration of African deities, and even using the concept of the devil as a source of power and strength against the white man's God. In essence, hoodoo and Christianity existed side by side, often intertwined but not synchronized. True believers understood the importance of maintaining a separation between these practices while drawing upon the power and symbolism of Christianity to shield their hoodoo traditions. By exploring this intricate and often overlooked history, we aim to debunk the myth that hoodoo requires synchronization with the Bible and Christianity. We also seek to recognize the resilience and resourcefulness of those who practice hoodoo in the face of oppression and adversity. Join us on this enlightening journey through the complex tapestry of hoodoo's past and present.